Hello, welcome to the Gauntlet podcast. I am Zach. This is Dom.
I'm Dom.
And this week we are going to be reviewing the movie Spiderhead, another Netflix original. We're kind of on, well, I'm kind of on a Netflix original kick right now because I find them so
Right.
fascinating because
Yeah.
most of them suck.
Right.
We're going to get into this one and see if it sucks or not, if
Right.
passes Gauntlet or not. And we're going to go right into Rotten Tomatoes and see what other people had to say so we can have a frame of reference. And let me tell you, right out of the gate,
Yeah.
this movie is certified rotten on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay. Well, hey, there we go.
Tomato meter from the critics' reviews,
Yeah.
146 of them. It is at a 39%, which is rotten.
Oh, okay.
Interesting thing is, so last week we did The Gray Man, another Netflix original.
Oh,
Was abysmally pathetic.
so
which I
bad. So
spent
bad.
dramatically, but it was terrible.
Yeah.
So that one was also rotten, but then the audience review scores, it was, what was it, 91%?
It was 91%. That was ridiculous.
So that
I
movie
don't understand.
was terrible. I honestly thought this movie was not nearly as bad.
Not nearly as bad. I cared for a while.
Yeah, although it wasn't great,
Right.
I don't know if it'll pass the gauntlet. It wasn't absolutely terrible. Like it
No.
wasn't gross
No.
in that sense.
Exactly.
Yet the audience scored this 28%. They have a trash can with the trash coming out, you know the picture?
Yeah.
500 plus ratings, 28%.
Wow. Okay.
So the general public hated this movie, which I thought was better than Gray Man, yet they loved Gray Man, which I thought was absolutely terrible.
Right. I don't.
I guess it just means people like explosions.
Yeah, maybe.
There's
It's
a lot
like,
of
or they
explosions.
like Chris Evans more than Chris Hemsworth. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
Oh, because there was big actors in both,
there were, yeah.
And like, but for some reason they love the Gray Man. I'm like, why? Yeah.
I don't
Anyway.
know. Yeah. Okay, so some of the reviews or
All right. Let us see.
So this is from a top critic. Joseph Kosinski's film, which is the director, indeed a classic cinematic clash between good and evil, but it's tinged with enough of Saunders' acerbic intelligence and humor to distinguish it from most summer schlock, at least until it reaches its uninspired conclusion.
I would call the conclusion uninspired. Yeah.
Yeah, the conclusion, what, like, okay, the opening, like the first, up until the first plot point, which we'll get into that, but the first plot point was very weak.
Yeah, it really was.
I was intrigued, and I was really hoping for good things. I was like, because Netflix originals, they have a bad rap from like everybody. So I was hopeful. I was like, this is pretty interesting. But okay, so that was a good comment. This is a -1 from a top critic as well. The movie's made up its mind not to cut too deep on the intellectual, as Saunders' writing often does. So instead, it leans into the human element without fully allowing its characters to become human. That's a pretty solid.
That's good. Holy crap, they're a good critic.
Yeah. Okay, this is another -1. While Teller and Hemsworth have a lot of screen presence together, there's only so much you can do without a decent plot or script, which I agree. And what we were saying that last week over and over.
That's what they should have written about the Gray Man, exactly. Because they're big actors, but no script.
Exactly, and this is one of the biggest beefs I have with Netflix originals, the movies. The TV shows most of the time are pretty good.
Yeah.
From the ones I watched, but they seem to gather to them a bunch of A-list actors or big names just to make the movie swallowable.
Exactly. Like the candy-coated movie is like, it tastes bad, but it's covered with just big actors.
Yeah, this storyline sucks, but if we throw in some good big names, people won't notice.
Right.
And it seems to be working most of the time.
Which is it's unfortunate. Like, people, can't you see? Anyway.
Exactly. So there we go for Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb gave it a 5.4 out of 10. So
okay.
It was
might be where I put it too.
A little over half, which yeah, it was solid. Pretty close, I would say.
Yeah, because there were a few moments where I really enjoyed it. Just a few moments, right? But when those are really strong moments, though. So anyway, we'll get into that later. But
yeah, so going into the movie breakdown, I guess if I could summarize this movie in a very short way, I would say that although it's better than say the Gray Man,
right,
and Red Notice, and maybe Power of the Dog,
definitely,
other Netflix originals,
yeah,
it would still, I would say, forgettable.
definitely,
It
yeah.
was almost
Like,
there. It was like most Netflix originals. It was half cooked
yeah,
and shoved out, and people, thankfully on this one at least they didn't love it. But I would say they were maybe a little harsher. I don't know. I would probably put it maybe around like maybe a 40%.
yeah, definitely. Like, I would not put it over 50.
Yeah.
Definitely not over 50. I feel like the 39 or what was it? The 39 that the audience gave it was pretty sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The critics.
Yeah. For me, that seems pretty healthy, you know. Yeah,
I agree.
at least as far as that goes.
All right, so now let's get into why.
Why? Dude, the why is so important.
Exactly. And this movie had a why.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible. I just feel like it was a little underdeveloped. But
exactly.
anyway,
It was half cooked. It was a half cooked why. They had it. Thank God they had a why in the first place, but it wasn't potent, you know, it wasn't seasoned well, you know.
It actually works because this is character development, which is the next one after movie breakdown. So
yeah,
the development of the characters. So starting with Jeff, Miles Teller, his character. So for me, what I thought, so like I said, like we just said, like the why was there.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was what I had an issue with this movie is I guess for most of the character development for all of the major characters in it, which there weren't many because of
Not really. Yeah.
because of, the way the movie was written.
Small cast.
Yeah. But it felt like once everything that they had to say was said, there was nothing else.
That's yeah, that's a good point.
Like, so what did Jeff have? Jeff had why he was in prison, well, why he was incarcerated in the first place before he this program to test these. Okay, well he had, which I guess they pulled out the fact that he killed his girlfriend as well until
that was good.
Which was they pulled that into right before the second plot point. They pulled that, which was good. They waited. It wasn't a full reveal yet.
Right.
But I felt like there was two chunks of his backstory. The fact that he was in a he was what do they call it, manslaughter.
Right.
I forget exactly the terminology, but anyway,
like involuntary manslaughter. Yeah.
Yes, he was intoxicated, car accident, killed his friend. That's why he's there. Okay, so he's not an evil guy. He's not there for murdering.
No. Yeah. None of the main characters are evil.
Yeah.
Like except for the bad guy. But,
yeah. So, but the thing is that spot of information, and then the other where it was his girlfriend also was there and she died.
Yeah.
Those were the two main chunks of his story. And although it was an arc, it was a very tiny arc.
It was a very dude. It's kind of like in Triple Jump. It's like if you're really bad at it, you're like,
you just go boom, boom.
That
boom.
was the movie essentially. So because he had one, but it just had very little lift, very little potency to it.
Yeah, and that kind of was the case for all the major characters. I feel like Steve, like once he found out. Once you found out he was the head of the company, he was really in charge. He wanted to do everything. That was about it. Okay, he was, his dad lied to him about imposter care.
Right, which that is a really good wound for a start, right? And then it builds and grows and festers into his why for doing this, right? It shouldn't just be, I have a father wound, hence I'm doing this. It should be, it started out as a little, it's a pretty big father wound for an 8-year-old kid. But it should grow, and then his foster family was bad too or something, or he's always looking for this figure or whatever or something, and it never works out. So now he's like, I'm so fed up with that, I'm gonna start controlling people. Which everyone wants to do, but it should have been more potent, I think what could have really my take on what could have helped that maybe was showing that progression in the movie, maybe where at the beginning maybe he did have reservations, and you knew right off the bat he was in charge instead of maybe holding that in until later on, right?
So that you can see his development to become the bad guy.
I wrote that down. I said I wish Steve's bad tendencies showed more gradually. Because
Yes.
once they start to show, they're
They're
just
just
coming
there.
up all the time.
And then when you think back, you're like, well, they always were there for the whole movie
Right.
because he was in charge the whole time.
Right.
And I mean, I feel like they maybe tried to hint at maybe something along the lines that we're saying um, what's his name? Dang it, his helper, Matt,
Mark.
Mark.
Yeah.
That's right, Mark.
Yeah.
When Mark is refilling his little
His pack thing in his neck back. Yeah.
and he's like naming off people who are dead,
Right.
who were in it with him at the
Mhm.
start. It seemed like,
Yeah.
but then he didn't go deeper. And anyway, yeah, I wanted to
It's
see
like
more with that.
there was they didn't have a problem laying the trail very like it was the trail was very well laid, right? But they didn't delve deeper into certain aspects that really could have been so they could have brought so much more life to the film in general, I think.
Yeah. I agree. And aside, I mean, those are the two biggest main characters. Aside from that, there was maybe like Lizzie and Mark.
Right.
But Mark, I mean, Mark didn't really have much development because you could tell from almost the beginning of the movie, after
He
like
was-
first 10 minutes, he didn't
Yeah.
like what he was doing. And
Yeah.
you knew what he was gonna do the whole time, basically. Like
Right. Yeah, and I figured too the way Steve was gonna go, you know.
well, yeah, he's gonna be his own downfall.
Right. And
The
even
fact
like,
that he
oh,
has
his
a
drugs
pact,
will be what kills him,
yeah,
like that kind
like,
of thing. Yeah.
the fact that you saw he had a pack on his back too, that means he can be controlled with the
Mhm.
drugs. So I'm like, well, that's gonna be tied into how
Right. I was like, well, the end is obviously gonna be him trying to what was it, the doxycyl or doxy was something, I forget. But
the
the bad one, the bad drug will obviously
oh
because he's
yes,
always trying to get it tested
doxyfloxacin or
more.
something.
Right.
Yes, like that.
So I
Yeah.
was like, well, that's how he's gonna be defeated, or turns out it was with all of them, but that would be a big push in it.
Yeah, I thought maybe. Well, I guess that's after character development. But okay, so the last
Sure.
character, Lizzie, which didn't really have much going. I mean, there was some.
The only reveal was at the end with why she was there.
The only hint of the fact that there would be a reveal was the one conversation that Steve had with her in the kitchen,
Mhm.
which honestly was a little out of place.
Yeah.
Because he goes to pretend to make a phone call to get coffee,
Yeah.
and then brings it up randomly, then leaves. And I know he's supposed to be a little psychotic, but in the flow, it felt a little out of place.
Oh, yeah. I guess what I was gonna say, that's for antagonist, protagonist. So yeah, go ahead.
But anyway, I mean that's what I had for character development. Unless you
Yeah.
had, but
I was just thinking like because like once I really liked the moment where they revealed that Jeff actually had like he killed his girlfriend too, that kind of thing.
it was a good moment. Yeah.
Now like that's obviously the second plot point. That's where his development ended, right? Where at the end it's kind of like they were saying, well, I don't forget the word they used, but like the end was like uninspired or something. Like it
Yeah.
kind of just flowed out. It ended when it was supposed to. Once the story is done, you end it, right? So that was good there. But this point is for antagonists. I wrote it down though. The gaslighting is on point in this movie.
Yeah.
Just the way Steve does it,
Manipulates
just by saying, "What you have it so good here. You have this. Like, how could you not like look at what everything I've done for you?
Exactly.
I'm doing all this for you. You have it so good here. Why on earth would you want more?" And then Jeff apologizes, and I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
It hurt because I'm like, dude, don't be apologizing. This guy's totally gaslighting you. But yeah, and he wasn't a, as far as bad guys go, I actually really liked Steve because he was so like he was quirky, right? But I feel like the things he said and the manipulation that he had, that kind of the control he had in terms of just his words, not because he was an especially powerful man, he's obviously very weak, but because he knew where to poke in each person in terms of their wounds.
Yeah.
So he could control by like hooking into their hurt and lifting them up by it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that's where his strengths really lied.
I agree. And I really like aside from everything else in the movie, I really did like almost all the protagonist and antagonist breakdown.
Yeah.
Their conversations, like the comment said, Teller and Hemsworth had a lot of screen time, but it just
Right.
wasn't enough to pull
Was it
through.
enough, dude? Was it enough?
Because
Holy
they had like some of their back and forth and the lines and the way they delivered on um acting. Hemsworth's acting was amazing. I like that a lot.
Oh, dude. I love the American accent too. It made
Exactly.
him it was off-putting,
It
but
was a
good.
new character I'd never seen because he's been in a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff and obviously a bunch of Marvel stuff. And
Mhm.
you kind of get used to seeing him a certain way.
Like only in Red Dawn have I ever heard him
Mhm.
with an American accent. But
Yeah.
that was a long time ago.
Star Trek too in the
That's
beginning.
true. That was like way back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Um, but anyway, I really did. Yeah, I like the antagonist, protagonist, the play off each other, like you
Right.
said, the gaslighting,
Mhm.
and then the slow reveal to like I thought. Well, I guess in the script writing, but
Yeah.
after Jeff finds out the midpoint where he realizes that
Dude, I was on the edge of my seat of that scene because he's
that
coming
was
back.
that was one of the
Oh,
best scenes,
that
and
was the best.
that was an incredibly well done midpoint.
Yeah.
But in the sense of the category we're on, I
Mhm.
loved how Jeff then treated him differently, and you could
Mhm.
tell he was thinking a lot more of what to do to get what he wanted.
Yes. That's
It
the
was
good point.
yeah,
Because like I wrote the I like how the wait, yeah, both Jeff and Steve practice the keeping your enemies close, because the scene where they're taking the Laffadil, right? And you
yes,
see in Jeff's eyes once it's off, he's looking like they both know it's such an
yes.
awkward
Like they're
friendship
both
because
circling each other.
they both know they're looking for a weakness,
Because
but they're
Steve
pretending to be
knows,
so.
even though he doesn't know that he looked and saw everything, he
Yeah.
knows something's up.
Hmm.
And Jeff obviously knows something's up too because he looked and saw everything.
Yeah.
So they're both like circling each other. Yeah, that was I
Yeah.
like that scene too. That was a great scene.
I love that.
Okay, moving on to acting.
Yeah. Oh, very
It
good.
was. I mean, Miles Teller and Chris Hemsworth were both very good.
They're very good.
Takes the cake because of his character, I would say.
Hmm.
It was much more animated and a little
Yeah.
more.
Hmm.
Um, the I wouldn't say the problem. I mean, it's one of those movies where there's not a lot of main characters to
That
absorb.
was the thing where, yeah, I
Even
guess,
though they did very well. It's still
yeah,
not a lot of points because it was two people in the whole movie.
right.
In my book, I would say, but
Yeah.
it was like I really it was really fun and great to watch, especially Steve's character.
Right. I wrote this might have been a movie breakdown, but I said both I like how the plot is niched and focused, right? But the entertainment factor really suffered, I thought.
Oh,
Because it's very niche. The story is very focused, right? You never see outside of the paddock except for in flashbacks or just twice, right? When he goes out or at the very end, right? Um, but I feel like the entertainment quality, because they did a good job portraying it as being really cold, right?
yeah,
But as a result, like it
and I
wasn't
think
that flashy, you know?
yeah, exactly. I think that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why we can both say it was forgettable because it's a thriller, and like you said, they did a very good job of keeping it niche where you see like the island is like the whole movie,
Right.
the facility.
Mhm.
But the problem is that when they got out, you weren't like, oh my gosh, he didn't take a deep breath. Like
I know. That's what I wanted to feel, like they finally
you
escaped this
wanted the
madman, right?
yes, you
Yeah.
wanted inside to be so hellish,
Yeah.
even though it's supposed to not be because it's supposed to be, it's a great facility.
Yeah.
You wanted it to be so like brain games, like exhausting to be in there that when they got
Right.
out, you wanted to just, you know, take a
Well,
deep,
they could have made it where
you know,
Steve, because of the drug combination or something, gets like really violent,
like almost sadistic.
Right. And now, like, whereas he would do this before, now because of the drugs, he'll do it even more,
Which would
and
have
the
been good
characters are
to
not safe.
him becoming more of a villain throughout the movie instead of
Right.
him.
Right. Because like as the escape, he leaves first. Steve flies away first and then just crashes because of the drugs.
Mhm.
Whereas there's no like he's coming after him or something, like he's escaping, and as
Mhm.
soon as he sees the police boats and starts to run, it's kind of like, oh, now he's not like really a threat anymore because he's not doing anything to fight back, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, what if he shut down the facility, didn't let them get in unless they had like explosives or something, and then just duked it out on the people inside? I don't know. Maybe
Which I
something a little more threatening. I don't know.
yeah, if you're gonna have a movie where the villain is not the kind of villain who will like if because what's most important to Steve was hiding the drugs in his research so he didn't get busted.
Hmm.
which was his downfall because his drugs ended up killing him.
Right.
If you have a villain who will not pursue the protagonist to kill them and eliminate them without fail, with no mercy,
Right.
you need to have the villain have a henchman or something who will. So
Yeah.
if the ending is like this movie where Steve bailed before the protagonist even got off the island, he had a henchman maybe who you hated the whole movie, who maybe was more
Yeah.
who would do all his dirty work, who
Right.
was chasing them down to murder them, and they barely get off in time.
Well, yeah,
Something
and he had a like an arc, like you're saying, unlike the character, say in Gray Man, who just shows up, you know, to kill them at the end or
yeah.
something like that. And yeah, so if the bad guy, and maybe for instance, maybe Steve, because he did it for good reasons, where he didn't want people to go through what he went through, right? He didn't want people to have to. He's like, society could conform. We could be awesome. We could work together as a unit. We could be ants. But he didn't say that, but that's basically what he was saying. But like, so his motives were good, right? I kind of where's he going with that? It was like if he didn't want to do it himself, right? Where he was too good. Like, I'm not gonna get my hands dirty in the sense of I'm not gonna compromise my morals here, but you can, and hence I don't do it, but I do it, right? I don't feel guilty, but it still gets done, right? So
almost like his lie for most of the movie, where he said, "Oh, corporate, or they're telling me to do this. Sorry,
yeah,
I want this is
right.
this memo I
This
got."
is excuse, yeah.
So if maybe he was doing that to maybe like a henchman who would do all the dirty work, and then maybe see would deny what was happening. I don't know. Just I feel like they could have like made the island more hellish.
Yeah,
it was
almost like a Shutter Island, you know?
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I know the plot, so I'm kind of like,
yeah.
I wish it was more, and I've seen clips though, so it's very just like, ugh, you know?
Even like say like the second half of Signs.
Yeah.
They board up the house and then the aliens get in, and
Yeah.
when they get out of that house and they're the son, Mel Gibson's holding his son, and he's giving him an inhaler, and they're finally out of the house and it's daytime, the attack's over. The alien is being beat to shit by his brother with the baseball bat.
Right.
When they're outside of the house, it was like, I felt
You're
like took it off of me.
Right.
And that was half the movie where the house was the hellish place.
Right. That's what I love, is like you can make something, well, in a movie like that, you can make something so innocent, like your own house, become a prison of death, right? So quickly. So you could easily make this place for convicts easily scary as hell, right? But that was Steve's whole premise, though, was not making it. He's like, you can go anywhere you want, like there's no locks, right? That's why it's so awesome. But I feel like they really could have played up the sadistic, eerie atmosphere a little more,
I agree. Yeah, and maybe like maybe coming off of the drugs was more traumatic, instead of just the room and like, oh, they got the bad drugs. And then maybe, I don't know, just making it where the recovery time from that period. Hell too.
Well, dude, because like in one scene she's screaming because she's scared of the stapler, and then the next scene she's hugging and comforting Jeff, because like she has the ability to comfort like that. It's like, what? No, she should be like recovering. I don't know. Like suffering more.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess, well, we covered acting and protagonist breakdown there.
Right. Okay. Cinematography,
honestly, there wasn't much to speak of, and I wouldn't give it any points there.
I wouldn't really either.
So script writing, unless you had more to say on that point.
No, not really.
Okay, script writing.
So
like I said before, the first plot point was, I mean, it might have been a little late, but not bad there. The only problem I found with it was like a blip. It was very hard to notice. Like, I was pausing and watching the timeline to make sure I didn't miss it. And basically it was Jeff resigned himself to going with the flow off of like one small conversation where Steve like kind of gaslighted him a bit.
Right.
Like, okay, fine, I'll go with the flow. But he didn't say that, but he started to. And it was very small, and there wasn't much to it. I feel like there could have been a more like minor cataclysmic events that made it that should have made it happen instead of
Right. Like
oh,
yeah,
I
it's
thought
setting
it was
incident. Yeah.
cool. And then one conversation was like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe something where he really opposed it more, which then could have been the thread where when he really opposed the Darkafloxacin or something, whatever that drug's name is called, the one that makes them crazy, could have
Yeah.
been even more so. So it's
Exactly. Yeah.
really he opposed, then the gaslighting made him go along with it.
Right.
Then later on, he really opposes. It could have made it even more dramatic.
Mm.
But
No,
the
that's true.
I thought was great. Steve finds out, or Jeff finds out that Steve is the owner of the pharmaceutical company,
Right.
and he's calling all the shots.
He's in charge.
Yeah, and then the second plot point was maybe a little early. It was back to back when you find out Emma was also his girlfriend was also killed in the crash, and then right next to that was when Jeff kind of confronts Mark, and Mark
Right. Yeah, yeah. He says, "Why are you doing this?" It's like, well, there's
yeah,
so
and
few
then he
geniuses in the
tells them
world.
that he knows that Steve is in charge.
Mhm.
So those were kind of back to back within a very short period. So there was kind of I felt like it was kind of a merged second plot point, which I feel like sometimes
Yeah.
movies like that where they have a dramatic internal struggle reveal backed up with a plot one. So it's kind of like a double whammy.
True.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that works most of the time, I'd say. And I feel like you can in movies you can manipulate it where it all works.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and then the wrap up, which was very
Very
anticlimactic.
not rushed. Yeah, I'd say anticlimactic. Yeah.
It wasn't the movie wasn't too short, I would say. It was almost 2 hours long. It was like an hour 50
Yeah.
or
Hour
something.
47. Yeah.
47.
Mhm.
So sometimes like I have a big beef when movies are like an hour and a half, and the story could have been told much better if it was say 2 hours or even an hour
Right.
50.
Yeah.
And this movie wasn't too short in that sense. It just like half-assed scripts.
Right. It was half cooked, like you were saying, like the end, which should have dude, like after a movie like this, especially, right? Like we're saying, where they're in a place and can't get out,
Mhm.
right? When they finally do, because they reference not being able to get out for so long, and then the moment when Steve says that you could have gotten out sooner because I've just been holding you here, right? And then Jeff gets so mad at him, right? So obviously it means something to get out, right?
The
So the
problem with
moment
that
that
was,
they
I don't know
do,
about you, I didn't feel much when he
yeah,
revealed it either.
right. I was like, oh,
Because
huh,
to me, their experience there, although obviously it was bad, as me viewing it, it wasn't atrocious. It wasn't
right,
absolutely despicable. Where I was
right,
like, oh my gosh, he could have been out this whole time. He could have
yeah,
been saving himself so much pain.
exactly. Because
But
you didn't even care,
so that when
right?
they
Like,
now, like you said, you
right.
did it.
Well,
You
when
were
they finally get out, you got it. Well, and here's the deal: like when the way they shoot it, which is why cinematography in this case doesn't get many points. The way they shoot it, when they walk out, it shouldn't be they run out, and then there's the plane. Oh no, we missed him. It should be they walk out and then they take a moment for themselves or something
they're out.
where they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, we're out," huh? Which to their credit, when they're on the boat and after the plane crashes,
They do
Lizzie's
a little
like,
bit where they like kind of laugh at each other back and forth.
right, like it's so serious, but they laugh because it's so serious, and they're like, "Wow, we just got out." That is good. I kind of wish that was longer, more things were said, and it was a little sooner.
And
You
the
know?
problem with it also, I thought, was that although that little bit was there was a hint of it. The fact that because while they were inside, you weren't just like begging for them to get
Right.
out.
Yeah.
It lost all impact for me.
Right.
It was like, oh yeah, they're happy, that's good. But it wasn't like I wasn't like laughing along with them, like, oh my gosh, yeah, you guys are fun.
Exactly. You weren't feeling what they were feeling. You're kind of like,
Exactly.
"Oh, cool," you're out.
Yeah,
But you wanted to be. I really wanted to be just with them there. Feeling that potency.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, yeah, that's a good word. This movie lacked potency.
Its spirit has lost all of its potency.
Exactly. Um, okay, so music. Honestly, I don't remember any
The
music.
only time I remember the music, which wasn't even really music, it was just really loud crescendoing was. It was like, it
Oh,
was when he found out
yes.
that Steve was the guy in charge.
Mm.
That wasn't really music though. It was music in the technical term, but in terms of like melody or whatever, there was nothing really there.
Yeah.
So
I,
I didn't really like it.
and there was only the one other point, which wasn't even their like the movie's music when they were
Right.
writing it. They were playing old songs, you know,
Yeah.
from it was his
Yeah.
phone hooked up to the speakers.
Right.
So, yeah,
I would say music doesn't really get many points there. It's only count.
I would say the same. For meaning, I thought this movie did have a bit of a meaning.
It did have some meaning there, yeah.
Kind of said it at the end too. Like I wrote some stuff down and then they kind of said it themselves,
Mhm.
or Jeff did his voiceover at the end.
Right.
Said,
Which I think is, who hasn't felt that, you know?
he's like, there's no drug for forgiveness for
Mhm.
yourself. You have to do it yourself. You have to forgive
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
And I thought that was because of the character development, which I wish there was more of, but there was some.
Yeah.
I thought it was all right because
Well,
it was
yeah.
reference to what had happened for the character, where he had to forgive himself for
Right.
killing his friend and his girlfriend in a car.
Right. And here he is the whole movie experiencing all these drugs and he's trying to figure out a way to, because Steve keeps bringing up, this is how you forgive yourself. This is how you make it so that no one else goes through this, right? And then
Exactly.
at the very end, when he's like, you got to do it yourself, you know, it's kind of like that was pretty satisfying, at least for me.
Yeah. And the fact that you could also say, well, that's probably why he even joined the study. If
Yeah.
he if well, you're not sure because they didn't show this part, but maybe it was advertised as a drug study.
Yeah.
And he, of course, he would take it. He's trying to forget, like he's
Yeah.
trying to rid himself of the guilt. So yeah, I'd say it was underdeveloped, half cooked, but that meaning was able to play into the tidbits
Yeah.
of backstory and depth they gave to Jeff's character. And even a little bit Lizzie, even though Lizzie was a secondary character and wasn't as important.
Yeah.
Her reveal wasn't as important, or as impactful. So for meaning, yeah, I'd say meaning gives us some points.
Yeah, it was definitely a potent,
but
it had a potent meaning.
yeah,
Undercooked, yes, but there,
it
definitely.
was there. Yeah. So, all right, we
Okay.
have 7 minutes left, and
Okay, let's do this. All right,
it passes or not.
let's see. So I
Okay.
don't know.
So, movie breakdown. What do you say?
I say, unless how I grade movies is if it needs to really impress me, right? I'm a bit of a hard judge here. So for movie breakdown, I'm saying no, purely because I had to think about it. You know, if I don't have to think about it, then it's a yes. Like, holy crap, it's awesome. You know, I'm gonna say no.
I will back that up, kind of for the same reasons. Just because there was, yeah, half cooked.
Yeah.
Unforgettable. Like I will never watch this movie again unless forced to. And I honestly could care less about what happens second time around. It's not one of those movies you watch it again and you're like just as invested, if not
I
more.
know. Yeah, it's a shame. All right.
All right.
So
Character
development.
Um,
I gotta think. Oh no.
say no, just because
No.
it was although they're underdeveloped.
Yeah.
And the thread was so thin that connected certain moments that should have been there.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. I'd say so. Okay, antagonist, protagonist. I am gonna say yes.
Me too.
Because I loved the scenes they had, you know, where the dialogue in those scenes was I liked a lot.
Those were the best scenes. The scenes those two going back and forth.
Yeah, I thought that it was pretty great. Okay.
For acting.
I'd say
this is tough because I really want to say yes solely on the fact that Hemsworth's performance was great because it was a new character for that actor.
Yeah.
But that's one character in the whole movie.
Yeah.
And aside from that,
so you didn't like Jeff?
No, I thought he was fine.
Or didn't? Or
I just thought that based on what he's been through,
it should have been.
It wasn't dark enough in the sense that it wasn't melancholy enough.
That's true.
He was
too easily able to just move on with Lizzie.
More, you know? I feel like, and I know they did reference that he was calling Emma's phone every Friday, free Friday, and leaving a message.
Yeah.
But I feel like there could have been more. Like maybe give him some nightmares. Maybe give him some moments where you can tell he's in anguish over it. You know.
Right.
So I'm gonna have to say no.
Yeah.
Because one character can't pull the movie.
Right. I'm gonna say it just because I'm say yeah, just because I like Hemsworth
Okay.
and the scenes with them together. Again, I'm gonna go back to those scenes, just the two of them. And well, yeah, when he was alone with Lizzie, it was less so, but the scenes where they were actually together, I like those. Okay, cinematography, no,
I say no. Yeah.
yeah.
Script writing, I'm gonna have to say no, because I mean it
Because I
had
was
to go.
thinking, I was like,
Yeah. There were elements that were there, but if if not all the points hit, then it's really hard to succeed.
exactly, yeah, yeah, you should, yeah. And for something like script writing, for a section like that, you shouldn't have to
Like
think.
that's the structure of the film and the
Right.
movie.
That is
Oh,
literally the backbone it's built on.
really, if anything else, you need to have that
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So
All right. Music, no.
no for
I
music.
take, we take music so seriously here, and that it's
Yeah, the
like,
Gauntlet podcast, music is very important to
oh
us.
yeah, very, very important.
Exactly.
All right. Meaning, you know what? I will give meaning a yes.
I will give meaning a yes as well.
Just because it's a very human meaning, you know. And yeah, a lot of the depth that they did go to, well, they could have gone deeper. I did appreciate for the characters and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm good. Yes. Okay. So it did not pass, right? It got 5 checks. Just by looking at this, I can tell. So it did not pass the gauntlet.
Marks and the rest X's.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that kind of lies with
Dude, it's almost like a 29% or whatever they said. 39. 39. Yeah. Or yeah. Basically, yeah, so I love how with movies like this, we end up grading it. Maybe it's subconscious, I don't know, but I'm giving my legit opinion here.
Yeah.
It ends up almost being what the critics are saying. It's kind of
Mhm.
cool to know that our opinions match with the critics. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe not. Who knows?
Okay. All right. There is the review for Spiderhead, Netflix
Spiderhead.
original. And let us know what you thought in the comments below.
Yeah, if you agree, disagree, and why. Make sure there's a why, because the why is very important.
Odds are very important as well.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
this. So.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time. Ciao.
See you next week. Ciao.